Hello everyone and welcome to my podcast channel for project management and leadership. And again, this Happy New Year for those who just joined. Definitely this is my first recording for the podcast for the year 2025, and I was very excited because this is my first time doing live clubhouse. At the same time, I'm doing a video recording at Herley's condo. Okay, so Herley was actually just kind enough to give me this space to do this podcast, at the same time also do the recording, and definitely I would like to welcome Herley. But before I let him speak about himself, I just want to introduce him a bit. As far as I know, you are Agile, and you are also a PMP. You are also Agile Rider, and you are also a Toastmaster. That is I think this is today what it's all about. Is I want to dig things out from Toastmaster, because this our topic today is all about storytelling and how actually storytelling help the project manager. So welcome, Ali. Welcome to my podcast.
Thanks, David. Assalamualaikum. Very good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to. I think this is your third podcast, right?
This is my third podcast for my. No, actually, it's not my third podcast, but I have do some trial run for the part 10 small podcast. But this is my third interview. Yeah,
That's it. You know, you introduced me early. Of course, thanks for the kind introduction. Yes, I spent 12 years in Shell, which, like many of us in Shell and in IT, I left Shell in 2017. Not because the job moved to India, but because God has made it. Actually, there was an opportunity for me to grow somewhere else, and that somewhere else was another oil and gas company. And I'm lucky enough, actually, in the last 25 years, I spent in the oil and gas, or now people call it as energy companies. Why I'm bringing these energies? You mentioned about my involvement in Toastmasters and my involvement in project management. The story actually is very important before we get into the detail. As part of the introduction of myself, I learned something in energy. You know, energy is where we get the motivations, we can get the inspiration, we can get things to move. If you stop the flow of energy in this world, you and I may not be sitting in this place.
Yeah.
Because we need power, we need electricity. You came here actually on not EV yet, right?
Oh yeah.
So you are still burning some fossil fuel, but that energy actually is also the reason why our audience is part of this conversation tonight.
Okay.
And as we get into more detail, my energy comes actually when I speak to people. I find actually it's very energizing for me. And I'm sure actually it's something that we can cover in the subsequent sessions.
I want to okay. One thing that I love about storytelling is that we always share things, share your logic, right? Before I go to the topic, I want to be clear. Are you introvert or extrovert? This is very, very crucial when we are going to the story.
How long have you known me?
Since 2018, I think.
Alright, 2018. Let's assume that it's like 7 years.
Yeah.
Right? So in that 7 years, how many times did you hear I say that, sorry David, I'm going to disappear and then I'm going to enter my cave?
I hear almost annually.
So it becomes like my annual event that I disappeared to what I term as the soul searching for me. And this soul searching is part of me to answer your question. Am I an introvert, extrovert, or ambivert in between? I don't even know. As an agile person, to me, identity is not too important.
Okay.
It's about responding to what happens around you is more important. I can be the most introvert person. I can be the most extrovert person. You have seen I can even sing.
Okay.
I've done even participating in Toastmasters International Speech Competition. I've spoken. I'm grateful that I've spoken in front of Sultan of Selangor. I've spoken even spoken to the security guard actually at the entrance of this condo. So where am I? I don't even know. What I know is actually storytelling and personality is about connecting people with people and bringing that energy.
Okay. Okay, so definitely we want to go into the topic.
Sure.
And I believe later on I'm going to bring up this introvert extrovert again.
Mm.
I believe most of our audience, in fact, there are some studies show that most people are introvert, and actually how storytelling can help
Sure.
apply to the introvert. So let's go into the topic. We have been talking about storytelling, right? And in project management, we tend to just submit our report just to update the stakeholder and so on and so forth. Why do you think that as a project as us, why we need to storytelling? And in first place, what is storytelling?
Let me take one step back, right? I'm assuming that our audience are largely project practitioners, and maybe majority are the PMP. If you look at the pink board, right, there is no skills called storytelling.
Yes.
But there is skill called communication. And stakeholder engagement. And so if you ask me, where is storytelling fits in, is basically you mentioned about creating and producing reports. Let me turn around the table, David. You are my stakeholders. You are my sponsor, and then you provide funding for this project, for a project. Do you want to know an update for what happens?
Definitely.
Right? Not only that you want to know an update, you want to be updated early before your meeting.
Yes, correct.
Alright. So what it means actually is that stakeholder engagement is about managing expectation, knowing when to escalate a risk, knowing when to identify that a risk has turned into an issue. Do you not communicate to make sure that this is clear for all the stakeholders and different people that involved in your team?
Yeah, definitely. We need to communicate.
Alright. Now let me twist around. Right. It's a bit too early to jump into this, but you just imagine, right? If I take waterfall, whereby it's very predictive, and whereby you have specific stage gates, whereby there is a need for you to produce reports, right? And there are also situations whereby there is this notation or notes that documentation is less important in Agile, because it's that people and interaction, right? So then, how do you put in communication, the storytelling and also communication? This is where, for as long as you are able to connect human to human, then there is a need for communication, and there is a need for storytelling.
Okay. So storytelling is actually part of communication. That's what I hear from you.
Correct.
And it's a part of just getting the message across. That's a key thing.
Correct.
To get the message across. But why we need to use storytelling? What's so effective of storytelling compared to normal reporting and so forth?
When I first grew up as a kid, right, there is this one magic word that I remember until today, which is once upon a time.
Okay.
What is that? A story, right? If I tell you there is this story about a hare or rabbit and a tortoise, can you tell the remaining of the stories? Majority of people, depending on their age and where they come from, they would be able to tell that there is this race between the hare and the tortoise. And there is this version whereby the tortoise, despite slower in speed, actually won the race. So this beginning of understanding that story as a kid, that once upon a time, so I get exposed to all this. And you get exposed to this, and we can connect with stories. That's why story is very important. Okay, now you can tell in the traditional and in fact in the Stone Age, where do you find stories? If you go to Goa, right, you can see on the wall there is this drawing or not. That is also story. We can move to different civilization. There are many ways of telling stories.
So storytelling is about connecting. What I'm hearing from you is about connecting the dot and also connecting the feeling, and and just now when we were talking about the tortoise and the rabbit, it's also something that can be easily remembered.
Correct.
Remember. So that we can actually tell the event for the project management and whatever things that happen in the project, we can actually tell that.
Okay, I know where you're coming from. So basically, with this experience in story, how do you connect with people so that there is this connecting the dots that you mentioned, right? I want to to switch gear very quickly. You know, before this conversation, I quickly ran my ChatGPT. What is storytelling?
Okay.
If I turn my 4.0 version of ChatGPT using my Pro account, right?
Yeah.
So it turns into voice. ChatGPT can tell me a story as well.
Okay.
Now, project managers, if you are not able to tell and connect with people using stories, connecting the dots you mentioned, right? They will lose to ChatGPT. How do you position yourself as a human project manager and being able to compete with these robots who will never need to buy Starbucks coffee, mama, and working 24 hours? Who is not waking up on Monday morning feeling groggy, feeling Monday blues, try to avoid meetings. So that's the reason this connecting the dots is not just about the dots, but actually connecting people. And connecting people is not through just data and report they produce, but it's through the mind and also the appreciation of what you're doing and also what you deliver.
So what I hear from this you saying is that storytelling is important is because we not only just connect the dot, but we're connecting the human.
Correct. Yeah.
Connecting the human, we able to tell the whole story much more clearer in a more feeling human touch.
Correct.
Kind of way.
You know, you remind me of my childhood. You know, David, one day I was many years ago, you can imagine, it was like in the 80s. I stayed in Starbucks, right? And my mother lent me her bicycle. And I rode the bicycle and then I go to one of the Taman Rakyat or something like that, and I park. One guy came to me asking, can I take a look at your bike? And I said, why not? Can I just ride the bike actually going around? He actually disappeared with the bike. I lost the bike in just 2 or 3 minutes. I was small and then I was rushing and then to try to catch him. I lost the bike. That's not the story yet. Okay, the story is when I went home, my mother asked, where's the bike? I was like, shit, how do I answer this? You know what was my answer? The bike is at the back of the house. And, okay, at the back of the house. But I was shivering. I was shaking. My mother immediately went to the back of the house and couldn't find it. And then she came back to me. Now that's where the storytelling is. How do I answer that? So I wasn't able to actually tell the stories. The point I'm trying to make is the connecting the dots is in that case actually trying to convince my mother that I did nothing wrong. So I needed to be able to tell her that no, I was genuinely stupid. Let somebody else took the bike and disappeared.
Okay.
Now, if you go to project, right, there is this environment that you need to explain something goes wrong. That's connecting the dots. That is an example you can think of.
Okay. So let's jump to the next part. So I understand as a project manager or as a project management practitioner, you and me or including the audience, we need to tell story because telling story connecting the human, connecting the events, connecting anything to ensure that we are transparent, we are clear on whatever message that we want to put. But when it comes to the real project environment, right? You have managed projects before. You are Toastmaster, you are project manager. How effective is storytelling?
Yeah. Now, it depends on the stages of the project. You know, typical project you start with requirement. I'm using an IT project. Okay, you can go in construction, you can go in capital investment, but in typical IT project, I'm talking about waterfall. You will start with requirements. Okay, that requirement already is user story.
Okay.
You know why? Because you gather with the stakeholders, with the users, try to understand their problem. Then you come up with, because I'm more familiar with SAP environment, very huge system. We come up with a CD document. What is CD document? A CD document is conceptual design document. How do you write the design document? It is based on the requirement of the users. And this is the requirement. They don't come to you and then they just tell you stories. What do you do? I wake up in the morning, I go to the office, as a purchasing person, I look at the requisition, I start communicating with my suppliers, and I make sure that they produce what we order so that they deliver on time. Now, how do you translate this requirement into a documentation? When you are, first of all, before you tell the stories, you must remember you are listening a story first. So that communication is very important, that you also understand that people are telling you stories that you need to digest, that you need to process, making sure that it's within the requirement of the project, and you deliver accordingly.
Okay.
Sometimes we focus too much on looking good when we produce report or looking good when we produce a story, but we forget to listen, to reflect on the actual story. So storytelling is not just about storytelling. To me, storytelling is also equivalent to, and importantly, to also have story listening, so that your story actually relates to the person that you're communicating. Again, it goes back to stakeholder engagement.
So now you are talking about the early stage, right? Early stage of the project. I try to relate it in Agile. You can actually a stage where you collecting user story, right? When it comes to the user story or user requirement, we as a project managers or product owners or whatever, we are or business analysts, right? We will be approaching our user, our client, our stakeholder. They are the one who tell story, right? But not many people know how to tell story.
Yeah.
And we are as the project manager, we need to facilitate that. How do you facilitate storytelling?
Okay, that's very good. You specifically mentioned about business analysis, right? So there is this facilitation in you use example of Agile. Sometimes when we do sprint planning, right, we know already what are the product backlog that we want to develop or to work on in the subsequent sprint or in the current sprint. You know your capacity, okay, and then you know your how much you can deliver based on the story points. Now, understanding the users, right, you need to make sure that from project perspective, you need to understand the value statement first. That's why if you look at this, then the most typical user story would have as a user, I need these features so that there is this value statement. Okay, I'll give you an example. You are getting your maxi scooter. I don't know what brand, Contest or Yamaha, right? So as David, okay, who has just gotten his B-full license, okay, I want to have a 500cc maxi scooter so that I can travel from KL to Kedah, which is my hometown, and then coming back on the motorbike so that I can enjoy the wind along the way during the travel.
Okay.
So what's important? What's important is that value of having that wind, being able to travel from KL to Kedah and then coming back safely. So if I were to someone who is working with you to get you that scooter, I need to make sure that statement is highly important, is given priority.
Okay.
So that you deliver actually what's required.
So as a BA or as a product owner or as a project manager, our job is to I believe the word that using by the BA is called early stage, from the user, right? What we need to do is that you talk about listening. We need to listen. So by listening is that we need to ask questions, right? We need to ask a lot of questions. How normally how do you start? Asking questions. A lot again. I just want to be clear. A lot of probably including myself. I also introvert. A lot of audience can be also introvert. They are also quite struggling on starting the conversation.
Okay.
How do you start for that?
Bearing in mind, this is project. That means it's largely business related. So people who are attending your meeting are expected to be able to tell the requirements. You don't, as a project manager, right, call people for meeting, no agenda. That's number one. The agenda itself is clearly saying that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have this meeting, and in this meeting we are going to have this elicitation of the requirements. So they come with actually ready state, right? Now, the ability actually to get people to tell story is actually more of human to human relationship, right? So if you come very dry on a very Monday morning, you just had a very big quarrel with your daughter, and you get into the meeting, you're not ready. But first of all, are you ready mentally actually to be in that conversation? And are you able to listen before just looking at your set of questions? This is where, in the past, maybe 20 years ago, whereby people just sell template. We come up with this Excel spreadsheet, 10 questions. Soalan pertama, soalan kedua, it becomes very robotic. And then you put documentation and then you put a checkbox at the end of it, done.
Yeah.
Right. But how do you know actually it's required? What happened is, I'm trying to transition between waterfall and also agile. The waterfall will say that we have already completed asking this 10 questions. Checkbox, checkbox, it's all done. That checklist actually become completed without validating whether it's right. So you move to the second stage, which is actually you call them and then review that. What happened is, this whole process, sometimes it can take 3 months, or 4 months, or 6 months, even SAP system can take like the whole year. When you get together with them, alamak, my story changed already. I thought that's what you said. Then you have this change request, you have this variation order. So this is where the story actually from this traditional elicitation moved to agile user stories, whereby you develop it in small chunks. You go through the iteration within one sprint, and then you change the user story if required in the next sprint. And therefore, that story about my everything changed 1 year later doesn't happen anymore. Or the boss wake up in the morning, I have new idea.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So that is where that you can actually facilitate on getting a user to tell their story.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's move on. We are still in the early stage. How about execution stage? How is it look like? How do you practice storytelling during the execution?
Okay. I'm conscious we've been talking about people telling me as a project practitioner their stories, right?
Yeah.
Now, when we get into the execution, right, things can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you thought all the design was nice and then you execute, right, then you have potential issue that delay the project.
Yeah.
Right? How do you tell that, oops, we're going to delay? Right? There is a need for you to tell stories. This is where I need to be ethically correct here.
Yeah.
You tell stories actually to tell communication with transparency. You don't tell story to cover your back.
Yeah.
People, there are two types of story. Either they cover their back or they tai chi their work to somebody else. That's also a form of story.
Very common.
Very common, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure our audience who are practitioners in project know that there are situations whereby I'm in deep trouble, so you need to cover, right? So I think when you mentioned about the execution stage, is about communicating about the risk, about communicating how that risk actually turning into issues, how to make sure that the issues are resolved.
Yeah. So during execution is a form of reporting, but we are telling the story again. Still the same, connecting the dot, make sure that the story that we tell to the right people, right? I think when we tell story, we also need to know who is our audience.
Correct. I want to take a bit pause here, David. When you mentioned about Toastmasters, right? We in project, we don't tell drama.
How is it?
Yeah, you don't tell drama in business context. You bring drama actually to understand people. You don't bring drama and then delay the project because people get emotional, for example. You don't abuse your storytelling skill to get people to give you the buy-in when you are not you don't deserve, for example, the sign off. You use your sweet talking. I'm not using storytelling here. I'm using sweet talking to get the approval or to get approval for the variation order. So this is where it's not right to especially you and I, we learn and practice NLP, right?
Yeah.
You use certain words. For example, I was in conversation in LinkedIn the last few days, and one person, my connection, mentioned about I'm struggling to accept rejection. Okay, so she wrote very lengthy. She is a journalist from one of the major newspapers in Malaysia. She said that she was rejected. I said, why do you change the word from rejected? There is a mismatch between what you can deliver and what the audience expects. So now this mismatch is a way of storytelling that, no, it's not that I was rejected, but because there is a mismatch in the requirement. There's nothing wrong having a mismatch, but being rejected gives this negative connotation that I'm useless. Can you imagine you feel I'm rejected? There was a mismatch. Maybe there is different conversation opportunity.
So storytelling can, whatever that I hear from you is that storytelling can be quite and the way that you tell story can change the perspective.
Depends on the why. You are a strong follower of Simon Sinek, right? You start with why. If the why is not right, maybe even the story will not work. One thing about story, right? As experience, as matured adult, you know people laugh by just looking at their face, by looking at their hands, by looking at how they sweat. The police, the investigators are very good at this, so you can tell whether or not people are authentic in their stories.
So you're saying that even the storytelling, the body language is also part of it.
Body language is definitely part of storytelling. I can give you an example of Toastmasters, right? If you speak in Toastmasters contest, you are being judged by a few judges. They were looking at a few things, right? First is your vocal variety. What is vocal variety? David! What happened? Why did you cheat me? People are very angry with you. You don't understand, this the tone actually would influence the emotion.
Okay.
But thing that happened is not because of my mistake. Because it happened. Can you not understand? When I bring down my voice and pause, you can feel the difference.
Yeah.
In our face-to-face conversation, I can put my hand, I can even use rhetorical device like a pen, like a book, like jacket. You know, one of the popular public speaker in Toastmasters, he even used flowers. He crushed the flowers. He was the best in the world on that in that year. So that crushing is body language with no words at all. So not only that, you look at your body language, you look at your intonation. We call it vocal variety. Your rhetorical device, what you use as story. Rhetorical device could include, for example, slides. Yeah. In our Zoom and also virtual conversation, it requires that as well.
Okay.
You know, you can feel a bit different, right? When I change my tone.
Yes.
Exactly. When I pause, and the audience can feel that as well.
Yes. This, again, I might myself also practicing storytelling, but definitely I'm not Toastmaster. A lot of techniques that I'm doing wrong, but the ultimately is that when I conduct either training or I conduct in project in the meeting, all this tone or body language actually do integrate into the message that I deliver over. Definitely NLP do help. But again, as you say, when we are using NLP, we might make sure that we are ethically using it or not. It can be quite dangerous. I myself, I tried in that evil side before, and not that something that I'm comfortable with, but yeah. So that is something that we need to practice that. Okay, let's move to the last part.
Sure.
Lesson. Right. You separate into the early stage, the execution stage. Now we go into the end part, which is the lesson. How the storytelling go?
I would start commenting. I would imagine the audience are largely or mostly expecting that the user stories come at the end of the stage, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where you celebrate your success. And nowadays, actually, the storytelling on the later part of the project could also mean some posting in the internal YAML in an organization, or maybe social media linking, whatnot. Right? So this is where your lesson learned is about making sure that the message come across. I specifically mentioned about the why, right? It depends on who owns the story. You know, if I'm a commercial consultant going to a client, you know what kind of stories I will tell?
What?
I will tell a story actually. It was great, it was wonderful, it was super, but I don't stop there. I will end the story with, but there is a great opportunity. If we do this 1, 2, 3, 4, we can get better. My message as a commercial storyteller for a consulting firm, I will focus on what's next on my business. You know what I'm saying? It's marketing.
Okay.
So if you are internal and then you fail the project, your conversation would be, right, everything was fine, let's close this and celebrate it, forget about it. That's where the ethics actually become very important. You don't want to be trapped. Not maybe some of our listeners are product owners or finance manager who owns the budget, right? And they don't want to be trapped into all this emotional engagement just because of stories. That's true.
Okay, so I hear you saying that during the lesson learned, when we tell story, the story must be meaningful, must be valuable, must be purposeful.
Correct. Yes.
Right. As what you're saying, if it can be a purposeful for the next project.
Correct. Yeah.
Or next role or next driver. That will be great.
Okay, I think we've been talking so much about theory and also my perspective, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about real experience. What I experienced, you mentioned about Shell, spent 12 years in Shell doing projects. With respect, Shell is a great organization. Some of the challenges that the project managers have is they have to complete this one document, that lesson learned document.
Yeah.
That lesson learned document is at the stage gate 6
Yes.
of PDF, Project Delivery Framework in Shell. I was the PMO actually deploying globally that PDF, so I know that. So before you can close your stage gate 6, you need to complete that document and then get the customers to sign. You know what is the problem with this story? The story there actually nobody reads it.
Yep.
Because it's for the purpose of documentation so that you can get the stage gate 6 sign off.
Yep.
And then you start piling this document in the storage. In the old days actually you put somewhere, now actually you put in the cloud. That this is the evidence that we have already completed the lesson learned.
Yeah.
But the question is who benefits from that? Nobody's reading.
Again, I totally agree with you. How many people are actually listening or actually go and dig out the whole lesson? No.
I don't know whether our good friend in PMI, Queenie, is in the call.
No,
Is
I
indeed.
don't.
No. If she is, right, I will tell her later. She wrote a book, Lasting First.
Yeah.
In her book, which is available in Amazon, I suggest that you go and find Lasting First by Queenie Lee. She mentioned that to start a project at the beginning of it, you must start with the last thing, which is you must start with the lesson learned.
Yeah.
But why she wrote that book is actually because majority of the project managers, it's not that they don't want. Can you imagine you're so busy, you need to go back and then look at the past project, you just are not able to do that. AI should be able to help us in the modern days project management.
So the lesson learned when we run in the story, and this story will be actually captured by the AI, and it actually can compile for us.
I can give you a real example. When I was in BP, right, I was asked to head this robotic process automation. I have no clue at all what was done in the last 8 years of RPA in BP. I asked Copilot, tell me what are the conversations that has happened in the last 5 years on robotic process automation, so that what I'm doing now would not be wasting my time and the resources of the company. Okay, sort of something like that. And then it comes back saying that, okay, this was done somewhere, and then I asked that, was there anything wrong with that project? Okay, this is something lesson learned was found in this document, and that document says that the 3 things that was learned. The requirement is to be clear. When people talk about payroll, because it was I'm just waking up, it's a payroll project, the statutory requirement was not captured correctly, and then the text file was wrong. You know what happened? In just 5 minutes, I learned what happened to me. Now, this is my challenge I put on the table. Where would a project manager play a role when AI can do that?
No.
No, right?
Yeah.
So it's all taken over by AI. But then, how do you communicate with the stakeholders? That's where the storytelling can help.
Okay. Probably this is a question I want to ask. I think a lot of people want to know how do I start? How do I start as a storyteller?
Okay.
Probably, how do you start as a storyteller?
I want to loosen up a bit, David.
Yeah.
In the early stage, I was trying to follow your line of questions, right?
Yeah.
It sounds to be like you try to match it, bring the storytelling into project management.
Yeah.
Whereby, to me, actually, when you mentioned about start, right? Story is actually part of our life, right? I can be a bit more spiritual majority of the holy books of all the religions in the world, they are all stories. The Quran is stories, the Bible is stories, the Torah is not human, actually it's made up of stories. That's the reason why I mentioned if you go to cave, you can find drawings on the wall of the cave. That's a story.
Yeah.
And people, 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years later, understand what was happening back then. It was told by stories in the form of drawing, in the form of holy books. Now, if I were to start, right, I need to understand that storytelling is only me. You remember what was the first story that you tell into the world?
I can't remember.
Your first cry, your first story.
Okay.
When you were
As a
so
baby.
hungry as a baby, can you tell a story? You cannot. But what do? You cry.
Yeah.
Okay, now, who was your stakeholder? Your mother. And then what did your mother do? Feed you. Did the story was the story communicated appropriately? Yes, it was. Did you get what you wanted? Yes, you get it. We are just human beings who are made up of stories. And then you know what happened? Okay, I'm going to switch gear a bit. We've just lost our friend Siva, right?
Yeah.
Maybe for listeners who may not understand where I'm coming from, Siva was the project management institute in Malaysia, the secretary, treasurer, like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And he just passed away on the 2nd of January 2025. With respect to Siva, and when he passed away, the last story that he told was a deep breath. The mother, the wife, was telling me on that 7:15 p.m. on Thursday, first it was on first of no 2nd of January, he had a very hard breathing, and then he moved, and then he passed away. There's communication. I'm leaving. I was in pain. Now, another story is this is even more powerful. Siva had a son of the age of 16 or 17 years old. He spent 45 minutes talking about his life in front of his dying father. Just for audience information, I got the approval from the family that I can share a bit of this story. That his son is challenged with some special needs. He was born with cerebral palsy, and he grew up as a boy that was labeled as unable or disabled. Right? So Siva coached him to be able to be very successful in what he did. He became like math genius. He can do Python coding, despite he was born a 500-gram baby, 5 months early.
Yeah.
Now, he spent 45 minutes telling Siva, Dad, you listen to me, I'm going to prove to you I'm not the disabled person that all my friends keep telling me. Dad, you listen to me, you have done your best for me. Dad, you listen to me, I've done what I can to please you. Dad, listen to me, if you were to die, you should die happy. He finished 45 minutes, that's when Siva passed away. When I was listening to this story, which is coming from the mother, I was tearing. It was so powerful. Now, to answer your question, where do we learn all this story? We don't, first of all, Siva's wife didn't learn storytelling to tell me. His son didn't learn specific storytelling to be able to tell the father that this is what I'm to tell you. But we as listeners now, more and more people listen to this, we learn something from them. You can see the powerful of the story. Yeah, the power of the story.
Okay. So again, you don't need to learn specific technique. It just come naturally.
Yeah.
You just need to be human.
Correct.
Just to be human, just to be yourself. Transparent. And that's why I have transparent. Tell the truth ethically, right? So that whatever story that you tell, I don't think that there will be a wrong, right? It can be a lesson learned, but it will never be a wrong. You're just telling the story and you will improve from that.
I want to redefine storytelling in a more careful way. Lying is also a story.
Okay.
Cheating is also a story. Scamming is also a story. It is your intention how you want to use this.
Okay.
Everything in our life, right, there is this moderation. If you enjoy your coffee, it's good. Actually, you wake up in the morning, you feel fresh. But if you take 100 cups of coffee for the whole day, it's not going to do do any good thing.
Okay.
Same thing, sorry.
So let's come back to the last section. You definitely have learned a lot of storytelling throughout your life, especially come from Toastmaster, from a lot of projects and so forth. What is needed for any project management practitioner to able to at least start to tell story? I know that definitely there is a formula or something. How can we start?
I wouldn't bring really formula actually to this because, of course, in my I do training actually. People can if you're interested, we have conversation how we can bring very specific method of storytelling. But let me give you a simple way of how. Right? There are many ways. One that I just recently delivered to one client is I use A, B, C, and D. A basically you accumulate your story. Before you tell the story, you need to have enough story banks. You accumulate that means in your story bank you have joke. When you start a project, right, you know that you have a risk or even you have issues. You don't start, good morning everyone, we have problem now. It doesn't work. Yeah. You wake up in the morning, you go to the meeting, you think, how many of you actually watched EPL game yesterday? What do you think of the game? Or did anyone of you see actually there was an accident before you get into this meeting? Yeah. That's story, right? And then you get people to get ready now. So that connection with people, then you accumulate your stories. Or when you want to engage with people who are overly happy, you want to bring them down, you use specific story. Or when you find people who are sad, you bring different stories. You have your bank. B. Now A done, now B. Right? You build that user story depends on this multiple C. I can use 7C, 4C, 3C. What is the characters? Who are the characters in your story? David and Herley and Siva. It's a story. We have Siva has not with us anymore. That's one story, characters. Then conversation. Remember David? One day we talked to Siva. Where was it? Yeah, we at the mama. You remember Siva was telling that this? Hey guys, it was so difficult. The meeting in the office was so difficult. My boss was asking like all sort of questions. So this is conversation. Then you answer, yeah, are you sure? That is conversation, and my tone actually would inflict, right? And this conversation actually would bring from the characters the conversation, and you bring in conflict. Hey, what happened? Stupid boss, keep asking me the same question. You have conflict. Then to make it short, right, I come to a conclusion. Of course, you didn't do your job. That's why, So you have your characters who are in the conversation, then you have your conversation, conflict, and so on, and conclusion. Now that's basically your business story. Then you have your C. Okay, your C is basically the way you compile and the way you present it. Depends on where you want to present it, right? Then you know. And finally, you deliver it D. This is where actually Toastmasters actually become very important, because then you deliver story actually depends on how you feedback. Our one-to-one conversation over Mama is different from me speaking of thousands of audience.
Yeah.
You know, if people pay me speak in front of, for example, my experience. There was one time I speak for Spastic Children Association of Selangor and Perak Territory, which is my NGO. You know who were my audience? There were 30 singers and artists, not from Malaysia, from Singapore, from Hong Kong, from Indonesia, in I think one of the hotel, I think Times Square. They were part of the charity badminton game that we organized in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Can you imagine? I was telling a story about my son in front of artists, and in between that they were ministers, they were journalists, and so on. I was standing on the stage for 15 minutes. How do I tell them stories? It's not easy. And then when some of them were like drinking, some of them was like doing whatever stuff, right? So I need to engage them. So I looked at the stage, then I moved from left to right, right to left, move to the center, because I want to have engagement with them. And this is where there are a lot of things that you can do. For example, you can do 3P, you can do pause, you can do power, that means your voice goes out, okay? And then you can do, I forgot already the other P, but there are a lot of methods. We are not going to be able to cover this method, but this delivering the story is different when you are in one-to-one conversation versus in front of big audience.
Yeah. I want to repeat again. Your A is accumulate story.
Yeah.
B is build the story.
Yeah.
C is create impact.
Yeah, create impact.
D is
Deliver.
And then just now I hear the what the E, engaging.
You can do E. You can also do F.
What is that?
You can use whatever.
Okay.
Food. You end up with food.
Okay. So that is what we need. As a project managers, as a project practitioner, what we need to do is that we need to accumulate our story, right?
Yeah.
Based on whatever project that we're doing.
I must give a bit of warning here. When you have your story bank and you accumulate, you cannot repeat with the same audience, number one. And secondly, you cannot repeat the same story when you have problem. Boss, sorry saya pancit. Sorry if you repeat the same story for a bad reason, people can tell you lose your credibility.
So it always have to be fresh.
Not have to be fresh, you have to be authentic.
To be authentic. Yeah. Cannot be a comedian. Comedian keep repeating their same joke.
Let me tell you, being a comedian, you need to use your craft to repeat the same story.
Mm-hmm.
You go. I met Haris Iskandar. No, at least I'm using a name that everybody knows. He used the same story. Yeah, to different audience.
Okay. So that is how I think as a project management practitioner, they need to have accumulate the story.
Yeah.
They need to know how to build the story, create the impact. They structure in such a way that create the impact, and then delivery and also engaging. The thing. Definitely, I believe this ABCD. You need to learn. That's a formula that you learn. Definitely, we were not able to cover here. Definitely, for those who are actually follow my YouTube channel, whatever that Herley is sharing here, I will be putting into the description later on, so that you can actually go and take a look at anything, or if you want to talk to Herley or anything, I also put his LinkedIn profile. You can just connect with him and have a chat with him. Definitely, this is something that we want to learn. But my question come back to this, right? How storytelling actually help you personally or professionally?
Yeah. Personally, actually, I got my first milk because I cried.
Yeah.
It was very helpful. Otherwise, I was very angry. Came to the world. What the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
And just to answer your question, right? You mentioned about Shell. 2015, Shell made announcement that the role that many of us actually were holding moved to different location.
Yep.
And when everybody was listening to sad stories of people thinking, what's going to happen in the future, I've been so comfortable in this organization and so on, which is story. I put myself not in the same conversation. They were having town hall in the hall, and I was sitting in my desk writing my book. I was reflecting on my journey in Shell and before about my son, and I ended up not just telling that story, but I also wrote the book. That book is me now. When I do my Agile coaching, I tell stories about what happened in my life. I created this brand of Agile Rider and Agile Living because it reflects my life. And how that personal story become my professional asset is what something the audience can think of. I am part of Malaysian Association of Professional Speakers, and we have this book writing workshop. So speakers need to have book as their business card.
Yeah.
You can think of this. Even when I apply my job, right? The latest job I had, how long was my interview? My interview was supposed to be like about 2 hours. We only spent 15 minutes on the real interview. The remaining of the session was about me, my son, and my book. Because on that day, I was featured full page on the Star newspaper. And then I was holding that newspaper, and then the interviewer was looking at me, "Hey, what's that?" "It's me." "Who's that?" "My son." The rest is history. We just talk about book, about son, about disability. And then I got the job. And I spent 7 years in my organization telling about what happened in my life personally. This is not telling that everyone can do that. Because first of all, if you don't have enough value in your story, you don't go ahead and tell people. People will get fed up.
Yep.
Even when I talk about my son, people may empathize with me, but I don't abuse that so that people just kasihan to me because they want to kasihan.
Yep.
I say that just imagine when you come to office, right, you have a challenge at home, a sick father, a sick mother, a problematic neighbor, right? You go to office, how can you focus on your work? In my case, actually, is my son. Now it relates to other people. So my story actually become very powerful. It's not like short story.
Okay, so definitely, what I hear you saying is that storytelling actually can help project managers. Either you are looking for next projects, or you are actually move on to the next role or anything.
Yeah.
That is actually help you to create your resume, your profile. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I think because the last 2 years I've been involved in an industry that I never involved before, construction, right? And I successfully, I think I consider successfully completed, and I have a story to tell, and people do listening, and people who are potentially my next project, probably back to construction again, and because I have a good success story, and I can tell and actually can share with people, and definitely with the storytelling, we can actually structure the lesson better.
I want to take advantage of your cue there. You mentioned about resume, right? Resume and interviews, job interviews, definitely, absolutely storytelling. I can give you an example. If you follow CBI, just for the listeners' perspective, CBI means actually competency-based interview. That means you are interviewed not the technical delivery, but your competency. Right?
Yeah.
So there is this model called STAR. What is the situation, task, action, and result? What is the situation that you are in? The situation is, my name is David. I had no idea what construction is. That is the situation. What is your task? You need to work these foreign workers delivering a data center in Cyberjaya. That was the task.
Yeah.
What action you take? Because I came from different industry, I had no idea what construction is. This is what I did. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4.
Yeah.
Who cares about 1, 2, 3, 4? But when you get into your R, which is your result, therefore I delivered 1, 2, 3, 4, you get the job.
Yeah.
And that is very important, that the STAR model, situation, task, action, and result, is a formal story. You put there in your CV, you put there in the in your interview, you put that anywhere. Meaning, at the end of the day, why are you doing this? Because of the last R, which is the result.
Okay. Yep. Definitely. Again, I want to share with the audience again. Storytelling not just for the project itself. It can actually meant for you, right? Meant for your own personal growth, own professional growth, and how you want to use it. That is great. So definitely one of the way is that you go into become a Toastmaster, learn about it, right? I'm not sure whether the chapter is going to have a Toastmaster or not. That's a separate story, but definitely if any audience want to learn, you can join any of those master that you want, or definitely you can actually again go to my YouTube channel. I will put Herley's link in, go and look for him, and you want to learn something from him. I believe you have training.
Yeah.
You have specific training on storytelling. You can actually conduct that. HRDC can do, I believe.
Sure.
Right? So that is definitely something that this is all about project management and leadership, right? It's not just to help you to get whatever your project success, but ultimately want to make sure that the audience, right, you are also success, right? And if you are success, definitely you create a story, and if you create a story, you can create impact for others.
I just want to add this before we close, right? With a lot of data available now, make full use of the data so that when you bring data, your story is more business oriented. It's less emotion. For example, how many percentage we deliver, but you don't tell the percentage, but you do comparison. Say for example, right, you deliver with satisfaction rate of the customer like 90%. You don't tell we deliver with 90%. When you know actually previously it was 50%.
Yeah.
We have growth double.
Yeah.
We have impacted double the size of the initially expected impact. This is where the storytelling becomes powerful. And one thing that one last thing I want to add actually, just not to confuse people, storytelling is part of social media. Like it or not. So every one of us actually is already part of social media. You can do rubbish, you can do good thing, but it is so.
Okay, good. That's definitely thank you, Herley, for sharing. Again, I'm looking at the time. Definitely, we still have about a couple more minutes to go. Any last word that you want to share with the audience?
I want to relate to my book. The first book is Living with Meaning, LIVING. That living with meaning is actually what we do now as we live and we breathe.
Yeah.
So I create a story of how I reflect my life with my son. Now think about your life. This powerful bank of stories of you while you are living actually is very important that you use it actually to create meaning to others. And why is it important? Because my second book, which is Living, when you depart and you leave this world, right, you need to leave legacy. In the language of Stephen Covey, the late Stephen Covey said actually to live, to love, and to leave legacy. That means you leave something that is meaningful to others and for yourself. And then you create love because you share this story. And then you leave a legacy, and that's why the living with me is actually leaving a legacy of you. When Siva left us, he is not physically with us, but we remember his story, right?
Yeah.
And then he left a legacy. Now, a little bit of marketing here, and this living actually is what I'm doing. As I've left actually my corporate role in the 25 years in oil and gas. I think I'm very happy that I can do this now. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, you will find actually I talk about finance, I talk about how I grew my son, my daughter. It's not about me, but it's actually about conveying that message in story.
Yeah.
Now, you know what happened is, after I shared that, people messaging me a lot. Thank you, Herley, I feel so down today listening to your story, actually bright my day. That's one. Another guy is actually from L&D, Learning and Development. I think maybe he's going to talk to me actually, can you bring in your stories and then share with our audience in the office. So we can have that conversation. You can connect with me on my LinkedIn, follow my stories, and I'm going to do more. I'm going to cover areas like people, humanity, living with meaning and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's about my own legacy.
Yeah.
Because I am coming towards my retirement already, and I want to live as positive as possible, just like our close friends here.
Yeah. So again, thank you very much. Again, the book that you have, you share me the link.
Yeah.
Again, I'll put it into the YouTube, my YouTube description. Normally after I release this video, it will be available in LinkedIn and also in the Facebook, and I will share all the link there. If any audience want to know more about Herley, please go to his LinkedIn profile. You want to know more about the books, all the link will be there. Yeah. Just go and grab it. Again, thank you very much for joining me this podcast. Lovely for the start of the new year. We start off the new year with a new fresh of story. Hopefully, by end of 2025, all of us will have a lot more story to tell.
Yeah, I would like to also express my appreciation for this opportunity to speak to you, David. I'm sure your channel actually will grow, and to start off 2025, which people it's a mixed feeling. The economy shows a bit positive sign, but because of AI, because of uncertainty, people are still worried.
Yeah.
So let's pray that we have a brilliant 2025.
Good. So again, for the audience, first of all, thank you for joining me. As you say, as you know, I'm going to have at least money for interviews certain people, and I'm still planning for the rest of my years. I will post it up into my LinkedIn. Please do follow my LinkedIn. I will share with you who is my next speakers, and I will share all the story. If you like this story, you like this podcast, please do like it. Please do subscribe my channel. And the most important thing is that share it out and give a comment. If you want to know for a certain topic, please do put it into the comment, and I'll try my best to look for some people to come and talk about the topic. So again, thank you very much, and have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.